Well, Maria, this is obviously day number 9 of this ongoing escalation here, and I can tell you that Gaza continued to be pounded by Israeli military today. Some very heavy bombardment had been carried out by the Israeli military in the south of the Gaza Strip, in Rafah and Khan Yunis. Health officials told us that at least one Palestinian had been killed, 8 were injured, 4 of them were children, and just a few minutes ago an air raid was carried out by Israeli fighter jets in Al-Maghazi in As-Sikka Strait. So obviously things are not de-escalating here. We can hear the sounds of drones and F-16 hovering all over us, and this is 2 a.m. here in Gaza, which is basically the time Israel often intensifies its raids over civilian areas in Gaza. This is the time where Al-Rimal area in Gaza had witnessed a massacre 2 days ago. And by the way, an hour ago, a neighboring residential building in the same street, Al-Wahda Street, was just leveled to the ground by 4 F-16 missiles. And that's why we're saying that amid very intensive talks, hoping to reach a ceasefire agreement, Gazans here are still afraid. There's fear rising among the residents as well as the children and the health officials because of the scarcity of medical supplies they've been dealing with, and they've been enduring so many horrific and tragic events lately. They are not obviously able to continue to do their work if the closure of the crossing border continues. They're saying that the capacity is about to run out here in Gaza. So right now as we speak, we can hear the sounds of drones, and people here are expecting to witness some more strikes anytime. As I said, this is the usual time. Yes. Based on our experience here, the warning that comes usually is a small missile, a drone missile to be precise. When a drone missile hits a house here, it means that more bigger missiles from F-16 or sometimes even F-35 jets is coming along the way. And that's the irony here in Gaza. For example, in Israel, there are sirens that can sound seconds, maybe, I don't want to say minutes, before a rocket fell into an open area, which that's the case usually. But in Gaza, a drone missile which could actually destroy an apartment and kill 10 people, let me say, is basically the warning Israel provides for these Palestinians here. And that has been the case even during previous escalations. This isn't new or recent, but this time I can simply say that Gazans have been witnessing the most intense escalation since the 2014 offensive Operation Protective Edge. Some nights during the 2014 offensive had been much easier than the nights Gazans have seen during the past 9 days. And of course, a ceasefire agreement isn't looking good for the Palestinian factions now, because they are still clinging to the terms and conditions they have offered. They have repeatedly said that they will not accept any truce unless Jerusalem was on the table. Today we spoke to Fawzi Barhoum here in Ash-Shifa Hospital. He's a spokesman for Hamas movement, and he confirmed to us, he stressed that Jerusalem must be a part of any deal, of any agreement that may come between the factions here in Gaza and Israel. But he also confirmed that intensive talks are being made. There are very respectable, he said, efforts from Egypt and Qatar, and they are still trying to mediate to reach a ceasefire as soon as possible. But asking him about what has been circulating in the Israeli media about a potential ceasefire Thursday, he confirmed that they do not rely on Israeli media, they do not make any comments on that regard, and that the talks are still continuing, but there has been no agreement upon anything until this moment.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, I can simply say that there's a shortage of everything here in Gaza, a shortage of electricity, water, fuel, which is basically needed for every aspect of life here in the Gazan enclave. But obviously, there isn't a shortage of hope. There has been a great amount of anticipation for our hope, let me say, for a potential ceasefire agreement among residents here. Everybody's watching the news. However, we've been talking just a few minutes ago to a Hamas spokesperson Fawzi Barhoum, and he told me that whatever is mentioned in the Israeli media has not been confirmed by any of the resistance factions here, and Hamas still says that talks are still being made. There are intensive efforts by Qatar, Egypt, and the United Nations, but nothing firm has been agreed upon between the two parties, because obviously, according to him, Israel continues to commit atrocities in Jerusalem and is not willing to put Jerusalem and Sheikh Jarrah into the equation. For the resistance factions here in Gaza, terms do not change. Sheikh Jarrah must be freed of all Israeli soldiers, as well as Al-Aqsa, before they can speak of any truce or ceasefire agreement. On the ground here, however, the humanitarian crisis has been increasing significantly, especially with the closure of crossing borders here. Kerem Shalom was opened for a few hours today, but only for the entry of fuel shipments to the international organizations, but not the local authorities or the electricity company. Power had been cut for days here, especially in the south. Israeli air raids continue. Just a few minutes ago, more than 70 air raids had been carried out by Israel in Khan Yunis and Rafah in the south. Ministry of Health here, as we are here in Al-Shifa Hospital, told us that just in the last 30 minutes, one Palestinian woman was pronounced dead. 8 injuries had been reported in Rafah and Khan Yunis. 4 of them were children. So even the death toll will likely increase within the next few hours. We can hear the sound of drones and F-16 planes here hovering all over the Gaza Strip. The infrastructure is still damaged severely, disrupting the ambulance workers' capacity to reach different areas inside Gaza and outside, especially in the northern areas, since Israel had been intensifying their strikes there.